ये है आपका अपना सब रंग 94.7 FM।
Yes, thank you for joining us to a conference call hosted by Chris Alexander, Canada's Citizenship and Immigration Minister. Please note that during the Q&A portion of the call, you will need to press star 1 to be placed into a queue to ask a question. We ask each caller to please limit to one question. I will now turn things over to Media Relations to moderate the call. Merci de vous rejoindre à nous pour la conférence tenue par le ministre de la Citoyenneté et de l'Immigration du Canada, Chris Alexander. Veuillez noter que pendant la période réservée aux questions, vous devez appuyer sur la touche étoile 1 suivi de vie afin d'être mis dans la file d'attente pour pouvoir poser une question. Si vous avez une question, merci de vous limiter à une question. Je remets maintenant aux relations avec les médias qui sera la modératrice de la conférence.
Merci beaucoup, operator. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining this conference call on the Strengthening Canadianship Act. Sans plus tarder, je vais céder la parole à le ministre. I will now turn things over to Minister Alexander for some opening remarks. Minister Alexander.
Hi, thanks so much. Merci d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. Je sais que c'est un temps de contrôle avant l'annonce d'Inter. C'est un peu remarquable. I know that many of you that just took place, so I'll keep my remarks brief. Canadian citizenship is highly valued. We, in this government of Canada, are committed to making the system more efficient, reducing backlogs and processing time, as we have done across the immigration system for years. We've been taking a range of measures already to increase the value of citizenship, restoring or giving it to people who lost it, never had it because of their identity rule, so-called non-Canadian, limiting citizenship by descent to the first generation born abroad, and publishing a new citizenship study guide to Discover Canada. And those of you who haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out online or in English or French. But despite these efforts, the fact remains that our Citizenship Act, last updated in 1977, needs amendments to address contemporary challenges. Les changements sont requis pour refléter l'époque moderne. Et le projet de loi présenté aujourd'hui en Chambre et annoncé aujourd'hui par moi à Toronto met de l'avant une série d'amendements législatifs afin de renforcer le programme de citoyenneté et la valeur de la citoyenneté canadienne. The proposed amendment will increase efficiency by making the process simpler, reducing it from a 3-step to a 1-step process, increasing the number of decision makers who can grant citizenship. It will reinforce the value of citizenship by strengthening the requirements and deterring citizenship of convenience. We'll do that principally by requiring permanent residents to live in Canada for 4 years out of 6 instead of the current 3 years out of 4. We'll also improve the tools we have to maintain program integrity and combat fraud, as well as protecting and promoting Canada's interest values by honoring those serve Canada. We'll do that by speeding the application process for members staying in armed forces, permanent residents who are members staying in armed forces, and revoking citizenship from dual citizens who take up arms against Canada or are convicted of serious crimes of disloyalty such as terrorism, high treason, or espionage. These changes will help deter citizens of convenience, and they will make it easier and faster for the vast majority of legitimate immigrants, those who truly aspire to Canadian citizenship and are already, when the first day in this country, are exercising many of its responsibilities to actually acquire that privilege. Overall, these changes mean that new citizens will be better prepared to assume the responsibilities of citizenship. We are convinced that there's only one way to fully discover Canada, to know what it means to be a Canadian, to know what this country has to offer and where it's going, and that is by direct experience of Canada by this country. CIC is strengthening the rules around citizenship to ensure that they respect its true value, that new citizens are better prepared, and that this balanced set of reforms will continue to ensure that citizenship is ended around the world. We're actually, this came up in the press conference a few minutes ago, struck by the fact that the demand for Canadian citizenship has never been higher. There are more people than ever trying to immigrate, seeking to immigrate to Canada, and of the immigrants, of the permanent residents now here, a higher number than ever are applying to be citizens. It actually, demand has outstripped our expectations, our projections. All of this shows the value that people around the world attach to Canadian citizenship and are responding to that trend, to that push for modernization with these changes that will make us that will raise the value of citizenship, that will prevent those who don't deserve it from acquiring it, and will reward those served in our Canadian Armed Forces or serve the Crown around the world by giving them the right to pass on ship to their children or to acquire it more quickly. In sum, these reforms will strengthen our bonds as Canadians, reward service, reduce reduce fraud, speed processing, and deter disloyalty. We think they reflect the aspirations of new citizens and, in fact, all Canadians in this generation, and that they will set a firm foundation for our citizenship for decades to come by continuing to ensure that it is the envy of the world. Ready to take your question.
Thank you for participants on the phone lines. If you have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Les participants au téléphone, si vous avez une question, voilà, sur votre téléphone avec la ligne. The first question is from Joanne Cheng from Fresh Hot Radio, Vancouver. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Minister. This is Johan from Fresh Hot Radio, Vancouver. I think you answered this question in the earlier press conference, but I would like to ask again. By increasing the requirement from 3 years or 4 years, extended to 4 years or 6 years, how is that going to reduce the backlog? And what is it going to make it harder so people can live more? Well, for those who are now in the backlog, who have applications pending with us for citizenship, won't be affected by these. The new 400-year requirement will apply only to applications submitted on the day this bill becomes law, which we expect to be later this year. It's possible to give a precise date of time. So that's first point. Secondly, on average, those who apply for citizenship do so after being resident in Canada for more than 4 years already. So the change actually reflects the current reality. It will oblige people to meet that 4-year requirement now for the first time, but it won't, by and large, make it harder or longer to achieve this. The biggest improvement is on cost. At the moment, as you've seen, we have a larger backlog than we'd hoped to have, reflect higher than expected, but it reflects that it didn't have all the judges that we needed over the past year and a half. It also reflects the effort we've made to come to grips with this phenomenon of fraud, which has slowed down a large number of legitimate applications, unfortunately, until now. The changes we're putting in place here, more decision maker, simpler decision-making model, more resource to process citizenship applications will ensure that processing time goes down from a 2-year plus waiting time now to well under 1 year within only over the next, and that will be the biggest gain of all. Starting end of 2015, beginning of 2016, new applications will be dealt with around a year or less, and that will be a huge improvement over, not just over the recent past, over recent, and I think that reflects changes we're making across the citizenship and immigration portfolio. As you know, on January 1st, 2015, we'll have an immigration system that processes economic applications. So we're striving for these improvements in all of the areas, and citizenship has up, and we're confident that it will. But do keep in mind that the new requirements for citizens demonstrate their attachment to Canada are serious. 4 to 6 years at a period of 4 is a higher threshold. We are giving people the flexibility to not be here for 2 out of years if they so choose, but we're also requiring them to file for those 4 years they are resident in Canada, and to undertake formally up front as they begin the application process for citizenship that they will be resident in Canada. We want to get at this phenomenon of people, not a large number, but enough to cause stir, who were seeking Canadian citizenship without any intention of residing here at all. That was never legal, was never acceptable to Canadians, especially new Canadians, the ones who made the sacrifice to come here to adapt and to meet the residency requirements. We want to make sure that in the years to come, that form of fraud is eliminated from our system altogether.
Thank you. The next question is from Sandy Chow from Caricha Radio, Toronto. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
By increasing the eligibility requirements, isn't it unfair to families which one or maybe even both parents have to go back to their country of origin to make money to support the family in Canada, which may also have an impact on our economy?
Citizenship is a privilege that comes with responsibility. Citizens, Canadians, are expected to reside in the period they're qualifying for citizenship. Once they've qualified, they can make whatever choice they wish. But obviously, we have large-scale immigration to this country, and we have large-scale citizenship programs in order to serve principally the needs of our economy, our society, and so that's why it's only fair that this requirement be demanding. Not a huge change from 3 years 4, but it's significant, and it reflects overwhelming wish of Canadians across the country. I haven't heard actually any group argue for the status quo or a lesser residency requirement. Most are arguing for an even longer residency requirement. That people who want Canadian citizens with all the privileges and responsibilities that bestows, passport, voting, full participation, that they live here and demonstrate that they want to live here. The UK and the United States, who are among our peers in this respect, have residency requirements of 5 years. So we're not even going as far as they are. And yes, we do understand that many Canadians will have business interests around the world, part of companies that are doing business in many countries. That's why the 4-year requirement is out of 6 years, to give them the flexibility to spend a third of their time elsewhere. But if you're qualifying for Canadian citizenship, you have to experience Canada, and you have to experience it on the scale that this bill is now providing for. That is what Canadians want, and especially new Canadians.
Thank you.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਸਬਰਮ ਰੇਡੀਓ 94.7 FM ਸਬਰਮ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਨਵੀਂ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ